Welcome to Chapter 2 of our mini course. This chapter will introduce you to the modeling tools and some basic techniques that will help you start producing beautiful models. Let's begin. Here we are at the MP3DS Max screen again. Over here at the Command panel, we have the Create panel. It is the first panel we have here. A little bit below the Create tag, we have a horizontal list of icons again. Those icons represent the categories of objects which we can create in the program. We have here geometry, shapes, lights, cameras, helpers, space warps and system. In this tutorial we will start talking about the geometry we can create. So, let's click back on the geometry button. Just below this button we can see that there is a window with an arrow. Here we are again presented with an option to decide what kind of shape would we like to create. We will talk here about the first two options: standard primitives and extended primitives. Standard primitives are actually described here at the object type. Every button represents the object type we can create. Let's go over them. The first button, Box. After pressing this button, we can notice that in the lower part of the Create panel, new options were added. Those options are the parameters of the box object. There are two ways to create a box, or any object from the primitives. We can create it by clicking and dragging at any viewport, and worry about moving it at the right place later. You will see with time that this is the most common method. Just click at some point on the viewport, drag once, that will define one of the box's sides, and drag again to define the height of the box. Click to finish. You can also define an object by inserting the exact parameters for the point it will be created in, and the length of box parameters, height, length and width. You can enter those exact values here by pressing the plus sign at the keyboard entry category. When and if you will want to minimize it again, just click the sign. You can see that here you can enter the X, Y and Z values for your object's location. Decide on the length, width and height values. Now press Create. At the viewports you can see that a box was created. You can see the XYZ location you have specified in this method is actually the center point of the box. That is the point which refers to the initial pivot point of the object. At the Parameters panel we can also see that we can specify the amount of length, height and width segments. Those segments eventually define how many polygons will our object have. We will talk about it more thoroughly at the poly modeling tutorial. But just to understand what this parameter does, let's switch to Shaded plus Wireframe mode at the Perspective viewport. We can easily do it by pressing F4 on our keyboard. Now you don't see much difference, but that's only because we have one height, width and length segment. Let's change that. Let's delete the existing object. We can also just change the created object's parameters at the Modify panel, but we will talk about it in the next tutorial. So let's enter the value of 2 in the length segments field, the value of 3 in the heights segments field and the value of 4 in the width segments field. All the side lengths are 50. Press Create. What we see now, the box was created. But since we are at the Shaded plus Wireframe mode we can see the segments. Those are the white lines dividing our objects. We can see that since we entered the value of 3 in the height segments field, our object was divided in 3 field at the Z-axis. The width was 4, so we can see 4 segments at the X, and here are the 2 segments of the length. Another option we haven't discussed is on the top of all parameters. This radio button that allows you to decide whether you want to create a cube or a box. The cube of course will automatically create a uniform length box for you, without you specifying the values for every length. The box option allows you to create any boxes you would like. So if you have to create many uniform boxes, just switch to cube. Let's see what other object of the standard primitives category we can create. Next object is a sphere. Again, we can click and drag or create by entering the exact values and the keyboard entry. I will do everything by click and drag methods from now on. Here you can change the radius, number of segments. Decide whether you want it to be a full sphere or just a part of it by changing the hemisphere amount. You can create just a slice of it by playing around with the slice from end slice to values. Here we have created something like a watermelon slice. We can create cylinders. To create it, click on the viewport, drag once to create the base, drag again for the height value, and click to finish. Change the radius and the height values. Height segment, cap segments and side values are the new birth divisions your cylinder have. I didn't mention it before, but the more segments you decide to give to an object, the harder it will be for your computer to handle it. The problem can occur when there will be many highly segmented objects in one scene. Next object is the torus. Let's create it. Here also you have the opportunity to change the radiuses, segment values. You can twist the torus, and even to create slices of it. Teapot. That is an object many demonstrations of Macs occur on, since here we have different curve face. So just click and drag, like we did with a sphere. Change the size by changing the radius. You can also decide that you only want to create parts of the teapot. The parts are the lid, the body, the handle and the spout. So you can actually decide that you prefer to create just the teacup and not teapot from the same option. Now we have our cone. Here you have to click and drag 3 times to define it. First for the base, second for the height value and then for the angle. All of which you can of course change right away, or later on at the Modify panel as I will show you in the next tutorial. We also have a geosphere. It is actually a sphere with different segments arrangement. It can be useful sometimes. The tube. It's a cylinder with a hole. I'm sure you can imagine how many objects can it be used for. We can of course change the inner and the outer radius. Change the height. The segments. And here also we can slice it. So well, we have created an auditorium wall just now. Pyramid. Click and drag 2 times to create. All the regular parameters to change are available to you at the side. And here the last but not least at the standard primitives category, the plane. Just click and drag and a plane is created. It doesn't have volume, but can be very useful to position other objects on it, to be used like a floor at the room you are creating, or the wall, and so on. That's it for this tutorial. We will talk about the extended primitives in the next tutorial. For now I would advise you to practice the tools a little bit. Try to create a room from the standard primitives, or some kind of a human-like body just from those objects. Something like that for example. This practice will make you more comfortable with the Mac's environment, and you will get used to moving, rotating and scaling tools which can be a little bit unfamiliar at the beginner stage. Just practice and it will become very easy. See you soon. Enjoy.